The Department of Homeland Security now saying they want more manpower at the southern U.S. border. DHS wants an additional 700 troops on top of the 1,600 already sent down there. A little more insight, Lieutenant General Thomas Spoehr, director of the Heritage Foundation Center for National Defense. Nice to see you, sir. Thank you. We've got all these National Guards troops heading down there. They're not really trained to be law enforcement officers. They're not really trained to interdict folks on the border. What are they doing?
Yeah, so they support the Border Patrol down there. So they monitor the radios, they look at the video cameras, they can even provide food, fix the roads. There's a number of things you can do to support the Border Patrol agents.
It always comes up as an issue. Is this the most cost-effective way to do this? You're talking about providing food, fixing roads, fixing vehicles. You'd think that we could do that a little bit cheaper than deploying the National Guard.
Yeah, there probably are some other ways, but on the other hand, this gets the National Guard forces some training. These are all volunteers, so nobody's there because they don't want to, and so they're getting some benefit out of this as well.
Where does this go from here? At some point, do we end up with a full-time deployment of National Guard troops down on our border?
I doubt it. Texas, for a while, though, has been using the National Guard quite effectively on their border, you know, below the radar screen, if you will. And so I think over time, especially if we can increase the number of Border Patrol agents, we should be able to reduce the National Guard presence as well. Or perhaps we change the laws in this country and restrict immigration better than we are doing now, illegal immigration.
One of the things, though, conceivably, if you end up with a sort of a full-time permanent presence down there, could you conceivably have a situation where the National Guard troops begin to be trained to do more of the things the Border Patrol agents do?
Yeah, so a National Guard soldier or airman could do all the things that a Border Patrol agent could do with given time. So the Border Patrol agents have to know Spanish, they have to know the law, they have to be able to engage people with firearms. That's all trainable. National Guard soldiers and airmen could be, over time, trained to do that.
You bring up a good point, which is firearms, and there is a lot of concern about whether or not you have a situation where someone who has been trained to be a soldier suddenly gets in a situation with a loaded firearm and is threatened in one way or another and deals with the threat as a soldier, not as a law enforcement officer.
So that's a real threat. Soldiers are prepared to take out and kill targets. Law enforcement officers and Border Patrol agents, different thing. Secretary Mattis has told us very recently that the people, the National Guard that are there, are not engaged in actual law enforcement duties. So that's not a current problem right now. It's a potential one, though.
This now brings up the larger political question, and we just had Senator Gillibrand put forward a bill that would require all DHS agents to file a report when they stop someone and question them about their citizenship. And here is her statement that she issued about this bill. You can read it there on the screen. Keeping our country safe cannot come at a cost to basic human rights. Congress has a responsibility to make sure our Border Patrol agencies are transparent and accountable, just like every law enforcement agency in our country should be. There's a lot to unpack there, but conceivably, if they have to file a report with about every person they talk about, you go from not needing a few hundred National Guard troops to needing a few thousand, because or tens of thousands, is the Border Patrol is going to be a lot busier with reports than with enforcement.
Yeah, so we would be making our Border Patrol agents into clerks, essentially. And so, you know, there's about 1,000 people that enter this country illegally as it is right now. And so
1,000 people every day?
Every day enter this country illegally. And so, so if we had to file a report on every one of those, plus the ones we turned back or encountered, that's all they would do would be file reports.
Well, in that case, we may not have enough National Guard troops to help the Border Patrol out. General, appreciate you being here, sir.
Thank you very much, Liz.
Thank you. Liz?
Well, turning now to the worldwide fight against AIDS, and one of the most enduring legacies of the George W. Bush presidency, who made sure millions of dollars in aid were devoted to fighting the disease in the developing world.